Fiction slowly but surely dismantles the character of your loved one. I've heard this quote. I'm assuming you have, but I'll say it again. Where your intention goes and the neural firing flows, neurons grow. So their structures in their brains, not just their neurochemistry, but their brain structures are changing based on what they're doing, repetitively, and what they're neglecting to do when they're not doing. So when I say addiction hijacks their character, with gaming addiction, it's hijacking their very brain structures. I don't even think we begin to grasp the full extent of it at this point in time. So their behavior is definitely not indicative of a normal, functional human being. And so the people around them, their behaviors adapt because there's a varying levels of crisis going on in the house. There's varying levels of concern. There's a lot of stuff going on. So it may be that you may do some pretty odd, strange things in response to what's going on with that addict. I mean, I've heard a number of parents go and buy their addicted son's pot because they were so agitated to calm them down. Pretty extreme behavior. But there's a whole host of things that people do, including pretending that there's no problem at all. So here we go. It's a conversation about character. August 17th. Some of us believe that most defects of character are merely traits we no longer need. Many of us develop clever methods of surviving in an addicted situation, such as denial or secrecy. But once we have the support of Al-Anon program, we may find that our old methods do more harm than good. What once allowed us to function in a nearly impossible situation is now an obstacle to further growth. An asset has become a deficit. Others define character defects. Others define defects of character as assets that have lost proportion. For example, a genuine desire to help a loved one can be exaggerated into a desperate need to fix another person. From this perspective, we aren't facing the daunting task of rooting out every shred of the defect, only turning over to our higher power so that it can be brought into balance or dropped because it no longer serves our needs. Today's reminder: instead of condemning myself when I become aware of a defective character, I can acknowledge my growth. I can recognize that a characteristic that once allowed me to survive is no longer necessary, or that an asset that had lost its proportion makes my life unmanageable. Instead of proving sickness, this shows a willingness to face reality and a readiness to choose help. Here's the quote: sometimes we must accept ourselves, defects and all, before those defects are removed in all of our affairs. So it's some of the most challenging situations. I find someone who comes from a chemical addicted family. So maybe both of their parents were alcoholics, or maybe an alcoholic and a drug addict. And then they may have, siblings. Maybe all of the siblings were addicts. And then they may be so full of shame that they're a workaholic. So they don't have any frame of reference from which to cope with and deal with addiction. And that's why you need a 12. Some of these people are so extreme. They need to go to CODA. They need to go to a codependency group. They need to go to an Anon group. they need a lot of assistance. And I don't say that out of shame. It's just there was no parenting, no appropriate parenting, no appropriate nurture. There just weren't a lot of things going on there. And they themselves become an extremely destructive force. So because they were stuck and trapped their entire childhood in surrounded by addicts, they don't know they don't see the benefit of recovering from addiction. I think sometimes some of these people have just completely given up. And so when they have a gaming addicted child, they do things to keep that child addicted because they're making a comparison in their mind. Oh, this isn't heroin. This isn't alcohol. It's not so bad, And so, they buy them Starbucks and, and buy them a fancy gaming computer and, on with the show and pat themselves on the back that they're managing the situation well. Um, when it's quite the opposite. So, August 17, character and it's the impact of addiction on the character of a human being can be quite profound. Blessings on your day.